Hi guys, it's Steph from IDRIVEACLASSIC and I am back in the world that I know and love of British Leyland, and today I'm taking out the oldest known Austin Maestro on the road today. What an absolute privilege. So in this video I'm going to be quite robust in showing you around the car, showing you some of the quirks and telling you about little geeky things like the fact it's a HLE, explaining what that is, and then we've been given the keys, so I've got them in my hand here and we're going to take the car out on the road so that you can get a real feel for what this amazing car is like. Now I've not even moved a single inch in it yet and I'm absolutely blown away already by just everything around me. So let's begin the video and we'll have a look around the car and I'll tell you a little bit about this amazing Austin Maestro. Apologies, I sound a bit croaky today. I've got a bit of a summer cold. So back to this car. Today we're out in the humble Austin Maestro, once an easy to spot car on the roads of the UK. There are now less than roughly 200 in use today and on the road. So before we set off, let's have a look round Molly and I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Maestros themselves. And PS, this is the oldest Maestro on the road, well, still in use on the road today in the UK. So it's a massive win for me and I'm so excited to show you her. Now, as we begin the Maestro story, it's worth talking about British Leyland. The times, you know, how things were in the 70s, it was rocky, things were uncertain. That didn't really change into the early 80s, and the government were very reluctant to bail the company out, and workers were disillusioned, and between strikes, cars were coming out that were pretty mixed, to be honest, and weren't really competing with other manufacturers, and they were losing market share. So with all this chaos, they went back to the drawing board and they said, right, it's time to whittle down the number of marques, and Austin Rover came into existence. Now, as I said, everything was pretty chaotic and the design side of things, well, it wasn't excluded from that. And it was undersupported, underfunded, and the team were feeling particularly demoralised. So the new director of Austin Rover came in and he did a good reshuffle and he invested in a new design studio at Canley, which for those of you abroad is near Coventry. Now unfortunately this came all too late for Project LM10, or as we know it, the Maestro, and the Maestro's launch was delayed by BL's first collaboration with Honda, which is the Triumph Acclaim, and that was all launched in late 1981, and it basically just pushed everything back, and there was infighting about, shall we go out with the Maestro, shall we not, we don't like it, we like it. And as well, Harris Mann had created a design and lots of people preferred that. So really there was an awful lot going on, and by the time the car came out in 1983, some people really felt like it had suffered from a lack of TLC, the fact it looked a bit dated. Well, in my opinion, I don't think it does, and people just felt a bit meh about the whole situation. However, it wasn't all bad news, because it was, once people had got in it and started driving it, they actually felt like it was a really pleasant car to drive, and some of that was down to the advanced technology and innovation with things such as McPherson struts at the front, trailing arms at the rear with coil springs all round. The favoured A-Series engine was back. It was the 1.3 A+ from the Metro. So it ticked a lot of boxes for a lot of people, and they felt that that simple engineering coupled with updated changes really brought something special to the Maestro. And as well as that, they built on that world of BL cars being built by robots, and it had really good compliance with the new adherence to CAD/CAM, and it was designed by machines and built by robots, essentially just like the Metro, but everything was quite exacting, which meant that when you got a car, it was actually quite consistent with the car that had come before it. Now, the other thing to talk about is the talking dashboard, which is actually correctly known as the voice synthesizer system, which was available in the early MG and Van den Pla Maestros, and it was programmed into 15 different languages. It was pretty gimmicky and people said at the time it was irritating, but let me tell you now, it's the thing that everybody has mentioned when I've said I'm testing out a Maestro. Now the Maestro did really well. It ran for 11 years in production all the way through to 1994, and you could have got everything from Van den Pla to MG to a solid workhorse of a van, and the last car off the production line was a Nightfire Red Clubman. technically. And I say technically because weirdly it didn't end there. The excess Maestro shells were sold off to Bulgaria and 2,000 cars were made there, shipped all over the world, before the remaining units were snapped up by Trans-European Trading, who built the cars at a budget price of $4,995, and they were in such high demand. And weirdly, the last one registered was a 51 plate car, which is incredible. So now that we've talked about the Maestro and I've given you a bit of a whistle-stop tour history, I thought I'd catch up with the owner Scarlett to tell you a little bit about this car and why she picked it, because for me it's a beautiful car, but I wanted to get her take on why she picked this glorious beige Maestro.
Hi, I'm Scarlett. I'm the proud owner of Molly, which is a 1983 Maestro 1.3 HLE. It's in Rattan Beige, and it's one of the oldest Maestros remaining, and affectionately known as Molly. I've owned Molly now for 8 years, and originally the car was purchased in Filey in Yorkshire, on the Yorkshire coast. It belonged to a disabled gentleman, and this disabled gentleman used to run it to and from the corner shop where it was garaged. Unfortunately, after him passing away, the car was then moved up with relatives up to the northeast of England, and where it was going to be used for the 17-year-old son to drive around in. Unfortunately for me, he couldn't get insured for it, and it ended up on eBay. I purchased it. It had a few little rust spots on it when I purchased it, and I've spent a few years putting it all together and just tarting her up a little bit, and this is what you get. It's fantastic. I love driving it. It's my pride and joy, and I'm just really happy that I've got Steph here with me, and I'm going to let Steph have a drive in it, and hopefully she enjoys it. Well, I decided to buy a Maestro. Originally it was going to be a Marina, but I couldn't find one that was in sort of my realms of being able to fix it up, because I've got no mechanical skills at all. So I ended up with the Maestro. I like the Maestro because it is different. There's not very many of them left, and just Austin Rover. It was British Leyland going through a bad time, and that makes it even more quirky. Now, I would really recommend anybody to buy a Maestro if they're looking for a first car in like sort of like the classic era, modern classic era. Easy to maintain, a fabulous engine on the 1.3 with the A+ series engine, and it's just been an absolute dream to own.
Now, one of the things that is very interesting about cars of this era is that there were different levels. So anybody who says the class system wasn't alive and well, it's very wrong, because they followed it through not only from things like houses and jobs and titles, but also to cars as well. So cars of this era and British Leyland cars started on a base spec, so that meant you pretty much got the car and four wheels and a key, and then as you moved up you got different things. So you had your L, so you got a few extras on that, and then you've got your HL, which is higher luxury, so your L's luxury, your HL is higher luxury, and then this particular car is HLE, which is higher luxury economic. And then if you went a level above, you could have got HLS, which is higher luxury sports, so you just get a few little extras. And then right at the top of the tree, the absolute crown, the creme de la creme, you could have got your Vandenpla, and Vandenpla cars are both absolutely ridiculous and brilliant all at the same time. So some of the things on this car that you might think are a little bit strange that you might not have had on other models. So for example, I think this is a little bit like the Metro in that they stripped things like the glove box out. They stripped anything, pretty much anything extra that they could strip out, they would strip out. Things like the cigarette lighter you wouldn't have had on your base spec models, things like your radio. But funnily enough, this, even at HLE, doesn't have your it doesn't have your passenger side mirror, which I think is absolutely bonkers. But on the look round of the car, you'll notice that it's got that black kind of spoiler trim at the back, on the back window, and that was something you got on your HLE, HLS, but you wouldn't have got on your HL. So it's a bit bizarre really what they picked to introduce at different levels, but I think it's just one of those quirky things about British Leyland, and it was something that I just wanted to share with you while we were doing a video on what I consider to be one of the most spectacular British Leyland cars that I've ever been handed the keys to. Now, you know how much I love little quirky things when I come and review cars, and Scarlett said to me, have a look in the sun visor. So I'm going to show you what I found when I pulled the sun visor down. This is absolutely incredible. Look at this. So this is, well, I'll do a little bit of explanation for you there. I'll do a little bit of explanation. So, as you can see, it says Super Cover and Super Cover Plus, and this was pretty much lay care. So when you bought your car, you could get kind of your cover and your service on it, and it's also your AA membership, because, you know, if you do break down, there is an option. I don't think this car's probably ever broken down because it is exceptional. And as you can see, it expired in 1984, but the card is still in here. And when you flip it over as well, you've got all your information about your lay care servicing on there. So it says, this is not a credit card. Your Super Cover benefits apply only to the vehicle detailed on this card. And if found, please refer to Super Cover Admin down at Cowley in Oxford. And this is where a lot of BL cars were made. So as you can see, it's got all the details on there. It's got the day that it expires for your lay care, the day that your AA expires, and also the vehicle registration on there. So I'm going to pop that back in now, but I thought it was a quirky little item and I couldn't do this review without showing you. Now, before we set off on a drive today, I wanted to show you this. This is called the Econometer. Now, it's pure 1980s. That funny era of like technology being a bit hilarious. Now watch this. So we've got the keys in the ignition, so you see the two red lights on the end and the green in the middle and the amber. Let me explain what that means. So the two red on the end basically are an indication that you aren't driving to the best of the ability of the car, and the green in the middle lights up when you're basically hitting the right notes on the car, and it runs off the vacuum on the accelerator. So watch this, because I'm going to start the car and give it a little rev to show you what I'm talking about. So we start the car up, and as you can see, the red is very dim because I've not got my foot down on the accelerator. But watch when I rev the car. So as you can see, it starts glowing red. Now when we're out, I'm fine notice that I'm just getting those red lights to go out. I'll try and show you so I can kind of show you what it's looking like when you're doing economical driving. Now I wanted to show you guys what I could see as the driver. So this dash for me feels quite advanced, because if you think about it, I'm used to Jill, who is a 1981 Metro, so I didn't expect this to be too different, but actually I've been blown away because there's quite a lot going on this dash. So just wheel you on round. So this is what I can see. So you've got your fuel gauge there, you've got your temperature gauge, you've got all your warning lights, and you've got your miles per hour, which is the zaniest pattern I think I've ever seen. You've got a trip clock, and you've got your overall mileage. Now as you can see, this isn't just a perfect example by chance. This is on less than 30,000 miles. Can you believe it? And then over here you've got some of your push buttons, so you've got all your bits and pieces over here, and then I'll bring you into the center console as well. So you've got your heater. So this pretty much looks a little bit like Jill actually. You've got all your heater controls here, and then you've got something which you wouldn't have had put in your lower spec cars. So this is actually, and this is me getting a bit geeky with you, this is a British Leyland radio, and you know, because let me just come in here, you've got the 3 blue bars on it, so I just might have to line it up there to show you. You've got the 3 blue bars, which is obviously what you get on the steering wheel as well. And just to remind you what that looks like, excuse me because this lighting is terrible, you've got your 3 blue bars there. And as well, which I didn't expect to find in this car, is your cigarette lighter. So just adjust the lighting there. You've got your cigarette lighter as well. You've got a glove box, and all the dash and the trim is this amazing chocolate brown colour, and everything in here is just pretty much a pick and mix of different brown, taupe, beige shades, and to be quite honest, it appeals to me in every sense of the word, and I just absolutely love it. Now that we've had a good look around the car, it's high time I think that I started you up and explained what this little gear means. Let me show you. Now let's talk about what HLE really means, and we're going to start off with this gear stick, which might look a little bit different to what you were expecting. So you might have expected it to say reverse, first, third, second and fourth. But you'll notice that it says first, second, third and, well, E. Now, I didn't know about this special E gear until my friend Ryan bought a HLE Metro. Now, I can tell you what it is. It stands for economic. And the way it is basically the gearbox is just slightly different ratio, and it means that you get much better MPG. So this particular Austin Maestro has a 1.3 A+ A series engine, which is the same as I've got in Jill. But of course, I don't have the E gear. So my MPG usually on a good run is somewhere between anywhere between 36 and 38, depending on how I'm thrashing it. Now, in this particular car, I've been told that even on a particularly juicy run, you can be getting a good 50 mpg. So I think that's quite interesting, and it would certainly have been, especially for the discerning driver and the motorist who like to save a little bit of money, something to consider when going out and buying a car like this, and maybe a push to get people to invest at the time of purchase instead of wasting it on petrol later on. Now, something that I thought was really interesting, and maybe it's just because I'm a bit of a British Leyland geek myself, is that this is the same key as Jill. And somebody once said to me that they would put off BL cars because the keys are flimsy. Because look at that, can you see that? So it is a bit sketchy. Hey ho, it's time to start the car. So I'm going to pop that key back in. Oh, do you know what? I absolutely love this car already. Look at all the brown interior. Look at all the beige. Oh, it's just, I think this is probably my new favourite. So start it up. Now you can hear that engine is really, really smooth, and you can tell that there is a lot more insulation. There's a lot more, in my opinion, between you and the engine in terms of soundproofing, because this is a lot quieter than the Metro, for example. And yeah, for me, this feels like a massive modern step up actually. And to say there's only 2 years in it, I am very impressed. Guys, oh my goodness, this car is amazing. So I've never driven a Maestro before, and I had some preconceived ideas, so let's talk about what they were. Now, my preconceived ideas were based on my own experiences and what I expected to find, and also some of the things that people had said. Now, I was desperate to try a Maestro because I had been told that they were sluggish, they were boring, and I wouldn't enjoy it at all. And one of the reasons I got told this particular model would be sluggish is because it's got the 1.3 engine, and it is such a bigger car than the Metro that also has the 1.3. And they said, honestly, you'll really notice it, it's really slow. I'm very happy to report back that this car is anything but slow, and also the handling is completely different to what I expected. So for me, cars of this age, people always moan and say, oh, you know, you need power of steering and all the rest of it. Now, let me tell you, this car is flying down. It's so smooth. Every bump, every turn, every twist in the road, it's been taking, like, it's just, I feel like I'm drifting through this driving experience. It feels like a really big luxury step up, and everything about this car is smooth, right from the handling. So it's really gripping the road, and it's taking every bend with, you know, it's like it's not even thinking about it. And as well, the steering is quite responsive and it's quite light. So I mean, even just a small turn like that on the steering wheel, I feel like I'm starting to get a response from the wheels. I'm starting to feel the car moving. And for me, that's a very different experience to what I'm used to with cars of this era. You usually have to be getting quite a fair turn on it before you get a bit of a result. And the steering is so light, it's almost making me freak out a little bit, because it feels like everything is super responsive, like you get in a modern car, except that it's got that element that I love, where you can hear the engine, you can hear what the engine is doing, and you feel like you're still in touch with the car, and you feel like you're still in touch with the driving experience, and it doesn't feel like you're just sleepwalking through. So yeah, I'm really taken aback. This isn't what I expected at all, and I think I definitely want to add a Maestro now to my wish list. So one of the things that I want to talk to you guys about is the idea that British Leyland isn't cool and it's not a choice that you should go for. So I'm a big British Leyland fan myself. I've never been in a Maestro before, but I almost had a sixth sense that I would enjoy it, because I looked at the car with its brown moulded dash, its Casio calculator style display, all the bits and pieces on it, and all the amazing colour colour coordinations of beige and various shades of brown with flashes of black, and I thought this for me is a cool car. It's a cool choice to go for, and I think that there's a lot of people now that are trying to step into the world of classic cars, and they're saying, oh well, it's too expensive for me to step into. There's not a classic in my price range. Well, why don't we discuss the Maestro? Because this absolutely, for me, amazing car only set the owner back, well, I'm not going to divulge the exact amount, but it set the owner back less than £700. Now, Scarlett spent a fair bit of money on this beautiful car, bringing it a little bit, giving it a few little touches of TLC, but by and large, this car is pretty much as Scarlett bought it. It's an exceptional model, and it was so cheap, and in my opinion, it really holds up on the modern road, and I think it would look good at a car show as well. So in my opinion, it ticks that box, and it's an affordable classic. And while we're here, why don't we talk about the Owners Club? So the Owners Club, it all falls into, so it shares its Owners Club with the Montego, so it's Maestro and Montego Owners Club, and in my opinion, they're one of the friendliest Owners Clubs. And in fact, in my very biased research going to car shows, I have never met a Maestro owner who isn't incredibly friendly, and so therefore I would probably pick one on that alone, because that was one of the reasons I picked a Metro. Everybody was really friendly, and it's got a good support network as well. It's run by a team of very passionate people that know what they're talking about, and they really love the cars as well. So I think if you were looking for a classic car that was cheap, but also you could get help if things weren't going quite to plan, this car has a really great Owners Club, and they do events, and so you'd get a bit of a social life as well, because I think sometimes people think picking something like a Mini or a Beetle or a Morris Minor, you think, oh, you're going to get a good social life with that. Well, I think picking this car actually would be a great choice, because their Owners Club seem to do no end of events. I see them at all sorts of things. So yes, it's really ticking those boxes for me. And as for coming back to that thing that British Leyland's uncool, is it uncool? Because I'll tell you what, prices of British Leyland cars are going up because people are starting to see the value, and people are starting to shed off as well that idea that British Leyland is rubbish, it's unreliable. I drive a British Leyland car every single day of my life, quite proudly, and I do up to 20,000 miles a year with very rarely a problem other than things kind of wearing out because they're original, and the parts are scarce, I won't lie, the parts are scarce, they're not as readily available as some of the other classics on the market, but don't let that put you off, because as I talked about, you've got a supportive Owners Club, you've got more and more interest in these cars, you've got people that hoard these parts and then they're willing to share. So yes, is British Leyland uncool? In my opinion, absolutely not. It's a cool manufacturer. There's some cool models. I mean, look at this car, for example. You turn heads in cars like this. As I've been driving along today, I've noticed all sorts of people turning around. People pick really posh cars for that sort of experience, like things like a Porsche. Well, you could get that same head-turning, admiring glance experience with a Maestro that costs you less than £1,000. In my opinion, that is good economics. Now as well, sometimes, I think I might mention a feature actually on future videos, is testing out horns in cars, because some of them are so funny. So have a listen to this. That is absolutely hilarious. I'm not sure I would take that very seriously if that was coming up behind me and I could hear that little horn. But yes, it's honestly, it's such a pleasure to drive, and I think I have got lucky. I'm not going to lie, I know that I've got lucky because I'm taking out an example with less than 30,000 miles on the clock, and those are genuine miles as well. It can all be proved back. It's an exceptional car to drive. It is so quiet, and quite often, I mean, I'll put my hands up and tell you that quite often with some of these plastic moulded dashes, you can hear them squeaking, and I can't hear this squeaking actually, which is an absolute relief, because sometimes you really have to work to block that out. And as well, it's got some cool little touches. I love these chocolate brown seat belts. That's probably made me sound incredibly sad, but yes, in my opinion, this is probably what it was like when you could have rocked up to your local British Leyland dealer and said, you know what, I'm ready to chop in my Morris Minor, my Marina, my Insert, 60s, 70s car here. I want something new. I want something, you know, that's going to get me from A to B with relative ease and isn't going to cost me too much money. And this is probably what my test drive experience would have been like, because this car, honestly, it smells new, it feels new. As you will have seen when we were looking at the seats, as we look around the inside, the seats look brand new. And I guess that helps as well, because with one previous owner who was a disabled gentleman living alone, he probably wasn't using those back seats if he was only using it to get to the shops. And yeah, I'm honestly, I'm really, I know I say this quite often, but this car is, I just can't find the words to sum up what an exquisite experience it is driving this car. It just feels so new, and it's incredible. I think if I could turn back, and if I needed a slightly bigger car, I mean, if you needed a slightly bigger car for maybe say your family, or you're an affluent family that could maybe afford a second car but didn't want to spend too much, this would have been a great choice, because there's plenty of room in the back, feels very roomy in the front, and it feels very well put together. And I think that is something that is very important when you take out a car sometimes, that they do feel a bit thrown together. Like when I took that Reliant out, I absolutely loved it, but it didn't feel like the most robust thing I'd ever driven. And yes, this really does. It feels absolutely exceptional. So let's talk about where this sat in the range. So the Maestro was kind of your medium-sized car, to put it in layman's terms. So if you were looking for something small just for grandma to run around, or just for you, or you were Princess Diana looking for a car, you might have picked a Metro. If you were medium-sized, maybe looking for kind of a medium-sized small family car, or you know, you needed something a little bit bigger than the Metro, you would have gone for a Maestro. And then if you were dad on a mission, or you were salesman of the year, or just someone who needed to put a lot of miles on a car in relative comfort, you would have gone for a Montego. And I've reviewed both the Metro and the Montego, so it feels quite apt now to be taking out this Maestro and giving it a little bit of love. And I can't think of a better example on the British roads today that I could have taken out than this car, because I think Molly the Maestro is probably one of my favourite cars I've driven. She feels brand new, she's lovely to drive, the car is so much more responsive than what I expected, and as well, this 1.3 A+ engine doesn't feel sluggish like I expected. And I think for me that's the biggest experience, the biggest thing I can take away from the experience. And as well as that, I also thought that I was not going to really enjoy it, because people had said they were boring to drive. And again, this is a great time to tell you, you should stop listening to people when they tell you certain things about cars, because people always slag off British cars, and they always say, oh, they're unreliable, they're rubbish, they're rotten. No, they're not. It's the bad examples that have clouded people's judgment. And I think sometimes it can work adversely as well, that people hero worship cars that aren't particularly good actually. They're in fact quite underwhelming when you take them out. But today I feel like it's time to celebrate the underdog. It's time to go and get something like this. Go and get yourself a Maestro, or maybe even go a stretch further, get yourself a Montego. But the point of what I'm saying is this. This is a modern classic. It's maybe not what the people consider a classic car. People seem to think that classic cars stopped being classic cars in some point in the mid-70s, and after that, anything after that is just a banger or rubbish or anything like that. But no, this is a modern classic, and it's beautiful. The handling is exceptional. It has everything that you need in your modern car, right through from headrest to your hazard warning lights, through to a comfortable driving experience. These seats are incredible, by the way. And yes, in summary, I would thoroughly recommend a Maestro to you. I have probably been slightly biased because I love British Leyland cars, but all in all, I came into this thinking that it would be a bit of a not underwhelming drive. I thought it would be a pretty average drive, and I have been thoroughly impressed by not only the car but the whole experience in general. It's a great car. I would recommend them to actually anybody. And yes, if you are looking for a classic on a budget, get out there, go and get yourself a Maestro, and give the underdog some love, because truly I do not think you'll be disappointed. Guys, I've had the best afternoon in this Austin Maestro. It's everything I didn't expect it to be. I thought it was going to be predictable. I thought it was going to be boring. I thought it was going to feel decidedly middle-aged, and I was completely wrong. This car has blown me away. It's fast, it's responsive, it's smooth, and I would definitely recommend, if you're looking for a cheap starter classic, this may be the best option for you, because just everything that I expected it to be, it's just not at all. It's incredible, and very reluctantly it's now time for me to hand the keys back to Scarlett and say goodbye to Molly, one of my very new favourite British Leyland cars. So if you've enjoyed this video as much as I've enjoyed making it, don't forget to hit like. New car videos go up every Wednesday and every Sunday, so don't forget to hit subscribe. And also, if you're on Facebook or Instagram or even Twitter, I'm on there too, so just search IDRIVEACLASSIC and you'll find my page, and we can catch up on there. And I tend to post different stuff throughout the week when I'm doing reviews and when I'm seeing stuff out and about. So it's just an extra way to get a bit of a new and additional content from iDriveAClassic. Now, it's time for me to hand the keys back, so all that's left for me to say is take care and drive safely.